Sam Pittman is out at Arkansas, and is Hugh next at Auburn.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today is an update of reality. If you take nothing else from this show, note that coaches are getting fired, and I think there's going to be a couple more that happen very soon. In my opinion, I don't think Hugh will survive this season before he is gone. The only way I think that he may not be in that circumstance, beyond that's like an incredible turnaround by the offense, that's not going to happen, is if Auburn lets him kind of just relieve himself of duties at the end of the year, right after the Iron Bowl against Baylor. That's possible. But in my opinion, he won't make it to the Bama game, and here's why. Auburn is 110th in the nation in passing. Now, I'm not saying Auburn should be the 1988 San Francisco 49ers going to the Super Bowl, but at the same time, they're terrible. They're 173 yards per game passing. They're 110th. Florida International, Wisconsin, Temple, programs like that aren't very good. I mean, Wisconsin's head coach is on the hot seat. They're over 20 places ahead of Auburn in passing. Auburn is not the beacon of light of throwing the ball around. I get it. But Wisconsin? Are you freaking kidding me? This is how you lose recruits. This is how you lose players. Run an offense into the ground. They had 3 points. I tried to watch some of that game, by the way. That's time I can't get back. Auburn had 3 points that they really generated offensively, despite, at minimum, having 3 NFL wide receivers. At minimum. Yeah, I would imagine that Auburn fans are pretty angry. I can't go anywhere on social media without seeing it. Let me do a correlation for you here. Sam Pittman at Arkansas just got canned, and it's overdue. The only reason he hadn't been fired before is money. They're trying to win at baseball. They're trying to be good at track. They're trying to be good at basketball. They got Calipari now. They're spread thin. But let's not lose sight of the bottom line. The SEC and college athletics goes through the athletic department's little sidebar that says football. In Auburn, while they're bad, Arkansas is on a whole nother level. Notre Dame could have scored 80 points in that game. Legitimately. If they'd have ran tempo, they could have scored 80. He deserved to go. And I'm not going to dwell on this. They're going to lose a lot of recruits. Everybody had a guy or two decommit, and there'll be others. That's going to be a fire sale. But Auburn's different in the sense they got a pretty good roster. Their freshman and sophomore classes are really good. Really good. Amaris Williams on the edge. That's a guy you just can't find anywhere. If he went in the portal, yeah, that'd command something. Cam Coleman at receiver, can you imagine what he would command? It would be insane. There are numerous players like that on that roster that are good. Maybe not to Cam Coleman's level, but potential NFL guys. They're not going to be happy with this because especially the defensive guys, they're doing their job at Auburn. And Hugh the play caller, I might add, although they list other guys as he's play caller. He's a nice guy. He's always been nice to me when I've covered them, etc. Nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you can't trot out a 7-figure quarterback and essentially get 3 points. They were gifted another opportunity to score, and they capitalized. Against A&M, who's got a mediocre defense? No, that's not good enough. So the first question that I get in these circumstances, will a team lose recruits? This is a two-part answer, but it's just true across the board. Even if you're having a good year, you're going to lose some kids in today's era. That's going to happen. People don't like it, but that's the way it is. Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, everybody loses somebody. That's part one. But part two, kids aren't going to sign up for this garbage that Auburn is trotting out on offense. And I did say garbage. They got better running backs than what they're showing too, because like they're not even trying to run the ball. This is coaching malpractice. It's why I turned the channel, even though it was still technically a competitive game. Again, their defense played well. A&M's offense wasn't in sync as much, or they'd have beat them by 20, 25. But Auburn, offensively, not even trying to run the ball, like in the first quarter especially, it just shows you this is what we do to screw it up. And I have no idea what's going on with Jackson Arnold. The internal clock that he has in the pocket is bad. All these things are going to be looked at by recruits in a very negative light because the development is not there. It's not. How many of these kids are going to stick around, offensive players, for this? And then the defensive guys are going to be like, well, we don't want to stick around because this garbage over here on the other side of what's getting coached. We know it's not the talent because we see these guys every day at practice. Why would we stick around? I expect a fire sale at Auburn. I've thought about this for about 24, 48 hours. I expect a fire sale unless they can. All of the following, by the way, not any part of this, all of the following. Fire Freeze before the season's over. Have somebody already in the bag and a high dollar guy. In-house hire is not going to get it done. Nothing against anybody there. High dollar, out of conference, maybe it's in conference. That's not important. Somebody not on staff. And finally, they're going to have to pony up to keep some guys, regardless of what they do with hires. All the above. There's probably some little things to try to shore it up, but I expect a fire sale at Auburn. I haven't seen an offense look that inept back-to-back weeks the way they did, and I know they're quality opponents, but looking like that uncomfortable, yet with that much talent, and I don't know how long. Cam Coleman's going to be a 10-plus year NFL wide receiver, period. I've had the pleasure of scouting him, seeing him play for Auburn. He's a good guy. He really loves it. They try to kind of get him the ball, but it's not when it needs to be. Jackson Arnold, there's something, part of this is on Jackson, don't get me wrong, but the coaching's just not meshing for some reason in the passing game. And then they don't run the ball enough to set it up to get it to him. Singleton, that's another guy, like they brought him in from Georgia Tech. He was a dude there. They barely get him the ball. Like everything is disjointed at Auburn. And I am steadfast. I expect a fire sale at Auburn, both players and recruits. If they do not do all of, get rid of him before the year's over and have somebody in the bag before the year's over, because those phones are ringing. Auburn could be a bottom 3 team in the SEC next year. Absolutely. They could be a bottom 3 team. They got a very small window to fix this. And if you prove me wrong, I'll stand up and be the first one to say that I was wrong. I don't see that happening. It's not good for college football for Auburn to be this bad, by the way, just as a side note. This is embarrassing. That's a program that should be in a bowl every year. It's not even a lock. They're going to a bowl. Are you sure they're going to beat Kentucky? I'm not. They can play defense, and Auburn can't score. Kentucky might win that game 16-13. It's possible. Anyway, to make a long story short, Auburn is in a lot of trouble. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the inevitable situation around some other coaching fires. I got Billy Napier to talk about a weird situation at Penn State. It's not that James Franklin's getting fired, but he's in a different kind of hot seat as it relates to recruiting. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for your business is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name, and here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer all the calls when you're not there after hours, and it keeps your business moving off the clock. See why over 90,000 business owners trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnCollege. That's QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quote will port them over at no extra charge. No missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a little bit more fun for me right now, too, for all those of you that have been commenting on all the coaching searches and everything else. I'm going to talk a little Billy Napier right now, talk about a weird situation. We don't hear this very often, but even though Penn State's a top 10 team, they're going to lose some recruits. I'll get to that in a second. But let's start off with Napier real quick, just for those that are curious. This is not easy, but it's just true. Napier and the Gators are off, and they're coming off the weekend. It's been a little quiet for them because they didn't have a game this past Saturday. But now they got Texas at home. Texas hasn't exactly been the front runner for offense this year, but Archer's starting to get a little bit better. They're starting to get a little more continuity, and Sarkisian can definitely call some plays. Obviously, just like at Auburn, ironically, Napier's trying to be the play caller, and it's not going so well. And I can assure you, Florida fans, because I've lived in Florida, I've been to the Swamp, they do not care. If that game from the moment the Gators offense comes on the field is not on point, they've already decided they're done with Billy, even though he hasn't been ousted. The Boo Birds are going to come out. And it's going to be, just keep this in mind, this is going to be a microcosm for what I'm going to talk about James Franklin in a second. The Boo Birds are going to come out. Texas got a legit defense too. And they are done. They're looking for any excuse to boo Billy Napier because those people spend a lot of money to go to Gator games, to support the athletic department. It is going to be a boo fest inside of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. I think that Napier is going to get canned the week leading into Georgia. They've got a bye week, then the actual game. The next week, somewhere in there, he's going to get canned. Probably the Monday or Tuesday, the bye, is my guess. But I'm curious to see how many recruits comment on Billy Napier's, for lack of a better phrase, his situation as it is. A lot of kids really want to go to UF. Neat school, it's SEC, tradition, the Swamp, all that stuff. They stink on offense. Like, they are so bad, it's hard to watch. It may not be as bad as Auburn, but it's competitive. That's not a good race to be in, by the way. I expect Auburn to have a fire sale, but that's a different deal. Florida, I think, is a little more of a slow burn. I think Auburn's going to do everything they can to try to keep kids because they know this is a small window for them to have kids like they have right now on campus. Florida's different. They're used to having those kind of players. They expect to have those kind of players. So it's a little more interesting, and I have a question for anybody listening right now. How many of the current players for the University of Florida Gators jump ship that are freshmen, sophomores, some of those younger guys that are, quote, the core for what the future is for Florida football? If they wait right before the Georgia game, and that's an easy answer for me to guess, most teams do it in the bye week. That's fine. Is that going to help them? Is that going to hurt them? I don't know. But how many of their young players, freshmen and sophomores, decide to bowl? And before anybody asks, I have no idea which ones. But it's just like with Auburn that I spoke about in the first part of the show. If you're a defensive player, the Gators defenses play pretty darn well. Why would you want to put up with this? You can like Billy all you want. I've heard numerous times that he's very popular with the players. They're not getting it done. They played well enough on defense to beat Miami, but the offense was so bad, it didn't look like they could beat a Division II team. It's not a lack of talent on Florida's offense either. They had some guys hurt, don't get me wrong, but no continuity. Nothing flew in any way, shape, or form in terms of what they were doing. It was just disjointed from start to finish against Miami. And while the Canes deserve credit, that was just the beginning, or the end of that part, really, because the USF game was trash. They are horrible. Everything they've done has just been bad. There's no reason to believe that Florida's going anywhere. There's no reason. And then the LSU game, in between those two, they had some opportunities and DJ throws 5 picks. That might have been the most disjointed they are. And LSU took advantage. USF, good Lord, that game at LSU, all of that was just bad. Then you go to Miami. Just unbelievable. I think they're going to lose some recruits, but I don't think it'll be as bad as Auburn. Again, that's a different program. It's got a different tier to it in terms of its top level. And I'm curious to see how many stay. I really don't know. But the recruiting class, that's the bigger problem. Minimum, I'm going to put 7 or 8 as the number I expect to leave, because kids pick coaches, not schools, more than anything. And again, it's easy to sell UF. I think it's a top 5 job for a head coach in college football. I really do. But Napier has ruined that opportunity, and it sucks because he seems like he's a pretty good guy, but that is just horrific what they've done. So teams need to throw the football and look good and have some flair to them. But think about the teams that they've had at UF. And from a fan's perspective, the boosters that have walked into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for decades, Spurrier's offense, Urban Meyer's offense, like that's a lot to live up to. I get it. But you've got all the skill talent in Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama to supplement the entire state of Florida. Like those are your 4 base states that you're recruiting from. It doesn't get much easier than that. And they can't hardly get a first down against a quality defense. Yeah, Florida's going to lose a lot of recruits. 8, somewhere in that range is what my guess will be before anybody asks. Again, I don't know which ones, but I'm going to go with 8 current commitments for the Gators end up elsewhere. Maybe I'm wrong and it's only 2 or 3. I don't know. But it's hard to keep kids in today's world with NIL and all these different things going on. Players are not as loyal to schools as they used to be. I expect a lot of change. To finish up the show, Penn State. James Franklin's not going anywhere. But don't expect receivers and quarterbacks to be headed for Happy Valley either. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if it wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll get to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Whether it's over-unders, picking the NFL MVP, the rushing leader, the guy that ends up leading the NFL in sacks, or anything else you want, you can use those $300 however you want on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and to get started. Let's talk about Penn State's dilemma, and it is a rather unique one. Penn State is a program that has a lot of tradition. It's easy to recruit there. They might have the best student environment in college football and just flat out the best game day environment. It's possible. All of that stated, it's a continuation from the first 2 segments of this show. Their quarterback play, despite having a guy that was 5-star recruit, national top 10 recruit, Drew Auer looked terrible. At the end, he got going a little bit, but it's not enough. And this is year after year, and it's even before Drew got there. And the same problem is still at the top. James Franklin. I think he does a pretty good job overall as a coach. But no matter what coordinator's there, no matter who they're playing, no matter the moment, quarterback play there is just terrible in critical games and critical moments for Penn State. They looked bad against subpar competition in the first 3 games leading up to Oregon. This is the team that many folks picked to win the national title this year. I even thought about it. I'm like, if Drew takes that step, they could do it. They went out and got Trevor Pena from Syracuse. They got a really good receiver from USC and et cetera. They've got players. They got 2 NFL running backs. Singleton, Allen, absolutely. They've got multiple NFL offensive linemen. Drew Auer couldn't hit the ocean if he was swimming in it when it matters most, though. And again, while I don't expect James Franklin to get fired, he won't. What quarterback or wide receiver is going to want to sign up for this? In today's era where clips like what I'm doing now and just social media in general, Penn State, like you go check, Penn State fans are livid, and they should be. What good receiver or quarterback is going to want to sign up for this? I'm not talking about 3-star kids. I'm talking about 4 or 5-star kids. If they can get those kids still, bless them. Bless them. How would you, as a 7-on-7 coach or a trainer, say, yeah, that's what you should go do? Every quarterback they have struggles in this circumstance. Why is that? Coordinators have changed. The season's passed by. Penn State is terrible in critical moments, anything passing game. Every year. Go look at any year in the last decade. When have they been consistent throwing the football in big moments? That's what kids go to college for. To use a comparison to one of the rivals, that's why a lot of teams lose wide receivers to Ohio State, lose quarterbacks to Ohio State. They're clutching those moments. They've earned it. Even Michigan and Notre Dame teams that don't throw the ball as much, some of the rivals they recruit against, they're throwing the ball with younger quarterbacks right now, as well as Drew Aller, who's a senior. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, and while Michigan's not throwing it that, they got a true freshman who still hits some big plays, and you can see the future with him. Do you really see a future with Drew Aller this season or anybody behind him? Nobody else has played. Why would receivers want to go there, and why would young quarterbacks? And they have plenty of them on campus for this game. Their recruiting staff at Penn State does a not just good, like it's insanely good job. They had like 200 recruits there, give or take. Phenomenal. I don't know if it was a good thing that all those kids were there, quarterbacks, receivers, obviously. It is a shame because Penn State's got everything else to win a national title this year. But their passing game is so bad in critical moments, it's hard to understand what they're even trying to do. Kotelnicki is getting hammered. Maybe he's part of it. But again, this goes back before he came over from Kansas. A long time ago. What is the problem with Penn State in their passing game? And how in the world are they going to fix the recruiting problem if the on-field product with proven players in terms of the receivers they brought in is still this bad? I don't know how you can do that. Franklin could recruit. He could absolutely recruit. He's got several guys on his staff. They're good at it. But this is going to take a lot. I don't expect it to go well to finish this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost somebody in 27 and 28 recruiting in some capacity. You would think would take a hit. They've proven me wrong on this before. Maybe they do it again, but at some point, I think it's really going to hurt them. I just don't see them pulling out the top kids like some think they will because they just don't prove it on the field. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.